So I'll start really quickly. We have been in a restructuring and reorganization mode this year. First and foremost was to get my arms around our membership and understand who our investors were, why they exist, what they expect from us as the regional economic developer for 3,000 square miles of high desert, God's country and open space. And then bring that back together and package it so that when we are out there promoting G.A.V.E. as the last best place in Southern California, people actually understand where we are and what we do. One of the first modes or things that I did was I put our map on the back of my card, because when I'm at conferences all over the country, people don't know where North Los Angeles County is. They're like, oh, LA. No, it's better than that. And so that was one of the first branding things that we did. And then secondly, Tom mentioned part of the investment that AVEK does with us every year helps us publish our roundtable report, and you guys have always been a great sponsor of ours. This document is truly our sales pitch and our story for the Antelope Valley. And this year we're going to expand that, because one of the things I've recognized in the 7 months I've been on board is that Southeast Kern hasn't been well represented. Southeast Kern is a huge part of our region. And if you look on our map, Mojave is the center of my universe, and Ridgecrest is the top of my world. So we can't forget where Southeast Kern is and the communities that we represent in Southeast Kern. So with that, I have been fortunate to get the Kern County Commissioner's blessings, and they have just come on board as a new investor with G.A.V.E.A, which they've never been investors before. So now we've got a partnership, a true private-public partnership with both of our counties and all 5 of our incorporated cities within our region. That's never been done before, and it's huge to me. Last week we had our quarterly economic update meeting in Mojave right at the Mariah Inn next to Mojave Air and Spaceport. And one of the reasons we did that was because we need to show not only the folks at Mojave Air and Spaceport, the 45 companies that are doing business there, but the whole rest of the region that we mean business when we're talking about Southeast Kern, and that we're not just giving that lip service. So I made a strategic effort to make sure that this September meeting was in Mojave, and it was the best attended meeting we've had in a long time. We had 82 people show up. Statewide director from the USDA was our keynote speaker, Dr. Humiston, and she has recognized also that USDA hasn't been serving us well in our region. And they have all this money and resources for business development and economic development, and no one knows how to access it. And that was the whole point of last week's meeting, was to bring Dr. Humiston here, have her be our keynote speaker, have her bring together the story about what USDA can do for us. And that's a huge part of what we need to do better as the economic developer for the entire region. Figure out how we help our businesses get the capital they need to grow their companies, or to expand what's already here, or recruit new companies to come. And so that's obviously part of my job.
And you're trying to recruit them. Where are they going now? I mean, I know you have a pulse on that.
A little bit, and the unfortunate part is California is being aggressively overtaken by recruiters and site selectors from other states. Like Nevada, Texas. You know, our guys at Mojave Air and Spaceport, if they don't see one site selector a week from somebody in Texas, it's an anomaly, truly. Texas, Illinois, Ohio, Reno, and
Arizona.
What's the other one? Not so much Arizona anymore, because they've gotten really restrictive.
New Mexico.
New Mexico, yes, thank you. And that's our challenge. Our greatest stumbling block right now is the fact that none of us have enough resources to throw at Texas to fight off the governor when he comes here. We can't do that, and so as the regional economic developer, I'm trying to leverage what every one of our cities is doing and what our 2 counties are doing individually, and then grow that into a message that works for us regionally. No one else is going to do it for us, frankly. And that's truly why we have to do it. That's why we exist. And that truly is our job. If you look at our website right now, it's Well, thankfully, it's going to be transformed in the next couple of months into something much, much better. But if my website doesn't bring site selectors to the desk and say, wow, we should look at Antelope Valley, then my website isn't doing its job. Right now, I have a website that doesn't scream, come to Southern California. And that's unfortunate. But that's our job. And so every nickel and dime that I spend doing what I do, if it doesn't bring leads to me, and if I can't turn those leads on to Lancaster or Palmdale or Cal City, get that B.A.V.E. building filled up in Lancaster come October 31 when those 800 people lose their jobs, then I haven't done my job. And that's,
A lot of these parcels of land are going to be landlocked that the general public cannot use.
Right.
Okay, we only want them because, like you said, it's maybe 2 parcels over from our 600 acres. Okay, and then 3 years from now, the one next between those 2 shows up. So that's how you're going to be buying this stuff. I'm just going to try to educate the board here as well.
Yeah, Frank, or maybe Mike, or somebody can know that when you buy those, do you always get those lien free?
What do you need for it?
When you buy them, you don't have any liens or any other tax lien?
Well, there's not going to be construction because these are going to be all vacant land. But if the seller has like an IRS tax lien against them, there is waiting. I mean, basically, you're not going to get title for 100. First, you don't get title. You get it's a sheriff's deed basically. You don't get title insurance like you normally do. So, but if there's IRS tax lien against the seller, the IRS can come up in 120 days and claim that property, but they pay you back for all the costs that's spent on that. They have that option. If there's a judgment against an individual, no, it doesn't go with the property. The judgments don't go with that.
Before we purchase anything, I'd just like either committee guidance or board guidance on, these are the site goals. This is what we're looking for, these are the prices.
You gotta go down the register, take a deposit down.
You do.
Yeah. Mike, is there any type of, when you buy it, is there any lien, is there like the federal liens?
The recorded trustee, for example, and then a subsequent tax lien, the tax lien trumps the trustee. And so if someone has a trustee and they want to protect their security, they better show up and secure the security, else they go like that. But I doubt that it has priority over the federal tax lien, I don't think. That was
You already know they don't, and it's like an insured title. So it's basically 120 days. They have a right to come purchase the property, or take the property. They got to pay the person who paid to purchase it. Basically, you ain't gonna find that down there because this guy owes $100,000, and he's selling for $2,000. The property's not gonna be worth $100,000. I mean, it's just most of these properties, like I said, are gonna be landlocked. You make a few exceptions to it. When they have ditches, drainage ditches running through the center of them, something like that. So we have a real estate consultant. We got to find out if he has the expertise in tax sales. If he doesn't have it, we get somebody who goes down there all the time. And I know a few people that go there every single time. So they don't know anything about tax sales.
Who? Oh, no.
No.
But they know about the land.
They know about, we're not going to have, I'm just going to warn you now, we're not going to have engineering done on these parcels of land. This is not what you're getting.
Stated as they go through the year, and Oroville ended up being, about 250,000 higher than what they expected. So that's good news for an initial allocation. So we might get a little bit more than we would have normally in Oroville, and that's just, you do a study, you do a conservative operation study, and sometimes you come off a little bit. Like I mentioned, they got 0.8 of an inch up in the Feather River watershed on Sunday, a little bit of snow up in the mountains. Oroville, exactly where it was last time I came to the board, 73% historical average. San Luis, in fact, let me show you that. Let's look at the map. Here's the map with the reservoirs. You can see where Oroville is, where San Luis is. This is Oroville still going down. Not going down as fast as they thought it would, but it's still going down. And so you're going to end up below 1.6 probably. This is like interest rates. They went up a little bit and then they dropped back down again. I thought we were out of the woods on San Luis, and I thought we were going to continue. We hit the low point. I think we've hit the low point, but it just hasn't been recovering quite as steadily as I hoped. See, there was kind of a nice curve there where we were actually starting to accumulate some storage in the building. And how they would allocate costs and water supply. There are three likely options that they're looking at. One is, well, everybody's in. We're going to, because technically this has already been authorized. It was authorized in the 60s. They could stick it in the bill, but they haven't really done that. One is everybody's in, but we're going to give everybody the flexibility to sell or trade or lease their table A. So you have a little bit more of an open market with your table A. That's one option they're looking at. And it would not only apply to the additional water that theoretically you get from the tunnel, but the existing table A. So, it might be an option. We're not, nobody's landed on anything yet. The other option is that contractors have an opportunity to opt in for as much as they'd like. If AVEK said, well, we've got 144,000, we don't need anything out of the canal or the tunnel. You could say, we want zero, so we get no water, we get no cost associated with that. Or you can say, well, we want to stay on the train, but we don't want to get in with both feet. You can say, we'll take 30,000, 40,000, something like that. So that's another option that they're looking at, is how they would allocate these costs and water supplies. And then the third option is kind of a hybrid of those two, where you say, okay, everybody's in for a certain percentage, but you have flexibility, and then you can opt in for additional water if you'd like. So there's a lot of talk and a lot of different options that are floating around. The legislation that was passed a couple of years ago that included the bond, they set up a Delta Stewardship Council. Delta Stewardship Council is supposed to come up with a plan, and they had reduced reliance was in the legislation, I believe. But how you define reduced reliance? My view is, well, you only get 62%. That's you can't rely on the delta. You need to take more water in wet years, less in dry years. The regulations have come out, and the regulations basically say, and I think I've mentioned this to the board, that the percentage of your total for the region, that percentage of state water project water has to be smaller. So if it's, let's say it's 30% now and 70% groundwater, that 30% is supposed to be smaller in the future, which is going to be a problem for us, because if the adjudication comes down, we're going to be using more state project water. The other aspect is they say, well, the most you've ever taken from the state water project or from the Delta ought to be less. So our maximum year was, I don't know, 110,000, I think, last year. They're saying you can't ever take more than that. That's the way they've structured the regulations. I'm not sure that's going to stick yet, but the regulators are saying, well, that's what we think. We need to find a different definition of reduced reliance. So that's going to be an ongoing issue, I think. Contractors are very excited about that, because we're not the only ones that have a table A that we haven't fully utilized yet, and we're using it as a supplemental supply. So it's going to be an ongoing issue. Operations, PD Roseman's at 5, East Side at 3, and Palmdale Connections 1.25. We did have an outage on the north feeder. It was that Monday?
It was last Thursday.
Thursday. Oh, I don't know, John. Why don't you comment on that? We had a valve leaking.
Yeah, we had a pretty big leak out by Boron, and so we had to do an emergency shutdown. We gave everybody about probably about 14 hours advance notice. Got everything shut down, and it was going to be a 24-hour shutdown. But we beat that. We were only shut down for about 18 hours. So got everybody back in water, fixed the problem. And we do typically, every winter, we do a couple of planned maintenance shutdowns on the north feeder, on the west feeder, on the central feeder. So we're going to try and maybe get an extra one in this winter and get some of these things taken care of. A 24-hour shutdown, maybe a 48 during the winter time to get some of this stuff done.
What was the leak, Chuck?
And there was an 8-inch gate valve on top of that, reduced down to a 1-inch air vac. So the 8-inch gate valve really wasn't doing a whole lot. They've got plugs in the top, and over 40 years the plugs had rusted out, so you had a 1-inch sprayer at 130 pounds spraying, so it's quite a bit of water. So we just removed that, put the AVEK back on. We're gonna do that to several of them this winter.
Data, we expect these numbers to go up a little bit because bromides have gone up. So, but it's the last testing on this cycle. We'll start slightly, but we kind of anticipate, this test will be a little higher than we'd like to see. This is Banks pumping plant, bromides, and you can see that spike, well, little peak right there. I think that's higher than we've ever seen it. So that's what we've been dealing with. But we did anticipate this, and the good news is the board is active getting ready for this next year, so that you're going to have extraction capability, you're going to be able to deal with this problem. So it's good news in that respect. Anything else, John?
That sums it up perfectly.